defendant was inside Spring High School. The defendant was unenrolled from the school by the associate principal on February 4th, 2025, and was told not to return. Spring ISD school records show the defendant is no longer an active student, and the school officer and associate principal advised the defendant to leave on February 6th a second time, not to return. The officer observed the defendant walking on the walkway with other students, and the defendant continued to walk in the officer's direction. The officer observed the defendant pull his hoodie over his head while walking towards the bus ramp area. The officer was in full uniform and gave the defendant a verbal command to stop and follow the officer to his patrol vehicle. The defendant disregarded these verbal commands and began walking in the opposite direction. The officer grabbed the defendant by his left arm, and the defendant began to resist, pulling away to the point where he started coming out of his hoodie. The officer verbally commanded the defendant to stop, and the defendant broke loose and used evasive foot maneuvers to gain distance from the officer in the direction of an open parking lot. The officer notified Spring ISD police and requested assistance. The defendant was detained 300 yards from the initial interaction.
So he was where?
He was at Spring High School.
I know, but was he in the outside or was he?
He was on the outside walking towards a parking lot and walking with a group of students when the officer interacted with him.
He was outside. Was he?
Still on the property owner of Spring High School, and they told him not to return to that high school. They told him on the 4th of February not to return to the high school. And he was on the property.
I understand that, but he's on the outskirts. He's on the sidewalk.
He was walking on a walkway with other students.
Walkway of the school.
It was
Near the parking lot of the school, which is owned by the school.
Yes, Judge. It was the walkway with other students, and that's when the officer saw him and tried to make contact with him.
I mean, I'd like to know where. You know, is he on public property? Is he just on a sidewalk on the outside of the school? You know, just walking?
He's with other students on the walkway walking towards the bus.
Further in the DMs, it describes it as the walkway near the portable buildings located north of the band parking lot. So
let's do this, Mr. Herrera. I'm going to appoint you a lawyer today so we can get down and dirty with your case a little bit more. Just take a seat for me in the jury box. Let me get you a lawyer, okay?
Judge, can I get on the sign first?
Oh, yeah. Let me have you sign a receipt real quick.